10 secret subterranean worlds hidden right underneath Australia. Australia looks, from above, like one of the flattest and most featureless continents on Earth, an ancient, weathered surface that has been sitting in roughly the same position for hundreds of millions of years. But underneath that surface, something very different is happening. There are cave systems longer than 220 kilometres. There are underground lakes forming in abandoned railway tunnels beneath the Sydney CBD. There are rivers flowing under city streets that have been erased from every map. There are lava tubes that extend for 160 kilometres through Queensland basalt, housing ecosystems that evolved in permanent darkness. And somewhere beneath Canberra, behind 6 sealed armoured doors, there is a bunker where staff operate under strict secrecy protocols and even their closest family members do not know exactly what they do. Stay for number 1. It is not a military installation and not a government facility. It is a town, and half the people who live there never come above ground if they can avoid it. Number 10. The Canberra Crisis Coordination Centre. Beneath the streets of Australia's capital city, there is an underground operations facility that most Australians do not know exists. The Crisis Coordination Centre functions as the nation's primary operational hub for monitoring domestic and international emergencies, tropical cyclones, seismic events, diplomatic crises, and the real-time logistical movements of the Prime Minister during high-stakes operations abroad. The physical security of the bunker is extensive. 6 hermetically sealed armoured doors protect the interior. Personal mobile devices are banned inside. No smartphones, no smartwatches, to prevent electromagnetic leakage or the risk of external intercept. Staff operate under strict confidentiality agreements. The nature of their work is classified to the extent that close family members are described as unaware of the exact character of their shifts. What happens inside is a continuous process of intelligence synthesis. Operators processing real-time environmental and satellite data, coordinating responses across agencies, connecting raw sensory information to national executive decision-making during crises. When a Category 4 cyclone is tracking toward the Pilbara, or a domestic seismic event registers on monitoring networks, or a diplomatic situation requires real-time logistic support, the information flows through this facility. It exists. It is operational. And the fact that most Australians could not locate it on a map is, by design, the point. Number 9. The Darwin World War II Navy Oil Storage Tunnels. On February 19, 1942, 188 Japanese aircraft attacked Darwin in the largest foreign assault ever launched on the Australian mainland. The bombing raid destroyed 7 of 11 above-ground oil storage tanks on Stokes Hill. Over 20,000 tons of fuel essential to Allied operations in the Pacific, gone in a single morning. The response was immediate and ambitious. The War Cabinet directed the Allied Works Council to construct a bomb-proof underground fuel storage network beneath the Darwin City Cliffs on Kitchener Drive. The engineering was directed by George Fisher, with 400 civil workers cutting horseshoe-section tunnels through the rock, each tunnel 5.4 metres high and 4.5 metres wide, lined with concrete and sealed with thin steel sheeting. The project ran over budget spectacularly. The initial estimate of £220,000 grew to £1.2 million as the complexity of the construction became clear. Persistent water leakage from surrounding natural springs during the wet season compromised the steel lining throughout construction. By the time peace was declared in 1945, only 6 of the planned 11 tunnels had reached the lock-up stage. No fuel was ever stored in them during the war. The tunnels found their purpose only in peacetime. During the Indonesia-Malaysia confrontation of the 1950s and 1960s, 2 of the tunnels were sealed and successfully stored aviation kerosene for Royal Air Force and Royal Australian Air Force bombers. In the 1970s and 1980s, the Darwin Fire Brigade used the enclosed spaces for smoke training. Since 1992, the 50th anniversary of the bombing, Tunnel 5 has operated as a public historical attraction. Its extraordinary acoustics have occasionally hosted underground classical music performances. The tunnels that were built to protect fuel Australia never stored now protect the story of the attack that prompted building them. Number 8. The Narracourt Caves, South Australia. On the limestone coast of South Australia, a network of limestone chambers has been acting as a natural fossil trap for over 500,000 years. Animals, marsupials, reptiles, megafauna, fell through surface openings into the cave system and could not get out. Their remains accumulated in the chambers across multiple ice ages, building one of the most detailed Pleistocene fossil records anywhere in the world. The discovery of the fossil chamber within Victoria Fossil Cave in 1969 opened a direct window into Australia's ancient ecosystems. The excavations that followed yielded exceptionally preserved skeletons of the marsupial lion, Thylacoleo carnifex, giant short-faced kangaroos, and massive reptiles. The bones were intact enough to allow paleontologists to reconstruct not just the animals themselves but the environmental conditions in which they lived. Research published in 2025 from Flinders University and the University of Adelaide analysed nearly 300 fossil bird bones from Blanche Cave to assess ecological changes during the last ice age. The study identified a pronounced drying phase beginning approximately 17,000 years ago, which drove the decline of wetland shorebird species including sandpipers and plovers. More strikingly, the fossils showed that the plains wanderer, an endangered, grassland-dwelling bird whose small remaining population is considered highly vulnerable, was once abundant in the area when the surrounding landscape was dense woodland. The bird's historical range was nothing like what modern conservationists assumed. The caves also house a maternity colony of the critically endangered southern bent-winged bat. Access to Bat Cave is strictly controlled during the breeding season. Above the caves, land managers run controlled burn programs to reduce fuel loads across the karst landscape, preventing intense surface heat from fracturing the fragile limestone and disrupting the delicate internal microclimates that make the fossil preservation possible. Number 7. The Belita Cave System, Northern Territory. In Judbarra Gregory National Park in the Northern Territory, there is a cave system that holds the Australian record for total mapped passage length, and almost nobody outside specialist speleological circles has heard of it. The Belita Cave System is not a series of dramatic vertical shafts or cathedral chambers. It is a sprawling, horizontal maze developed at shallow depths of 5 to 20 metres beneath a rugged limestone surface. The mapped passages within Belita alone exceed 123 kilometres. When combined with adjacent connected systems including the Dingo Cave, the total mapped passages in the Judbarra karst exceed 220 kilometres. For context, the cave passages beneath this patch of Northern Territory outback would stretch from Sydney to Canberra and back. The geological reason for this horizontal expansion is a 3-metre thick bed of impermeable shale beneath the cave-forming limestone. The shale acted as a barrier that prevented water from dissolving downward, forcing lateral growth instead. The result is a dense grid of interconnected passages following joint directions through the rock, with over 1,000 ceiling openings through which daylight and tree roots penetrate deep into the maze. The cave's hydrology is tied directly to the tropical monsoon season. Torrential summer rains drain through the surface cairnfield above, causing intense seasonal flooding inside the passages. The water is temporarily dammed by sediment levees that accumulate near the karst edges, and the erosion that results is still actively expanding the system. Belita Cave is not a geological relic. It is still growing. Number 6. The Tasmanian Deep Karst, Niggly Cave and Delta Variant. In the high rainfall karst systems of southern Tasmania, Australian caving holds its depth records, and the story of how the current record was set is worth telling in full. Niggly Cave, in the Junee-Florentine karst area near Mount Field, was first discovered in 1994. In 2019, cavers connected it to the nearby Growling Swallow system via an underwater sump, establishing a combined depth record of 397.7 metres. Then in July 2022, a team from the southern Tasmanian Caverniers made an extraordinary discovery. The entrance to a cave called Delta Variant had been missed for decades because it is located up a steep limestone cliff, concealed by thick scrub and fallen logs, for metres from the known mouth of Niggly Cave. 4 metres. Decades of exploration. Hidden by vegetation 4 metres from a known entrance. The team descended 300 vertical metres on ropes, including a single continuous pitch, the Black Supergiant, dropping between 163 and 183 metres straight down. At the bottom, they confirmed a new national depth record of 401 vertical metres. Further south in the Southwest National Park, Exit Cave extends for 23 kilometres through massive chambers and extensive glowworm colonies. It is the primary habitat of the blind cave beetle, Godotreccus menjemi, an endangered, eyeless, reddish predator that lives on streamside silt banks and hunts by touch in permanent darkness. Historical limestone quarrying near the cave entrance threatened its habitat. The quarry has since been closed and rehabilitation is ongoing. The beetle, which evolved its blindness over geological time in the absence of light, is now protected partly by the absence of the industry that nearly destroyed the darkness it depends on. Number 5. The Undara Lava Tubes, Queensland. Subscribe before number 4, because that entry involves a cave that is filling with water from its own private underground lake, and the lake is beneath the Sydney CBD, but first, 190,000 years ago, a volcano in far north Queensland erupted. The Undara Shield volcano, southwest of Cairns, released approximately 23.3 cubic kilometres of fluid basaltic lava at temperatures exceeding 1,200 degrees Celsius. As the outer surface of these vast flows cooled and solidified into a thick basaltic crust, the molten lava within continued moving and eventually drained out, leaving behind hollow tubes, conduits running for 160 kilometres through the landscape. Weaker sections of the basalt roofs collapsed over time, creating over 70 deep depressions across the surface. These collapse zones now collect monsoon rains, and the moisture they channel into the surrounding landscape supports dense vine thickets, rainforest descended from Gondwana flora, surviving in these damp, fire-sheltered pockets while the surrounding terrain has transitioned to dry savanna woodland. You can stand on the edge of a lava tube entrance in the Undara Park and look from arid Australian bushland directly into a small patch of what the continent looked like tens of millions of years ago. Inside Bayless Cave, one of the tubes, the atmosphere would kill an unprotected human quickly. Restricted air circulation allows organic matter and bat guano to decompose in a stagnant environment, raising carbon dioxide levels to 5.9%, nearly 200 times the normal atmospheric concentration, with oxygen correspondingly depleted. In that toxic darkness, 52 resident animal species have been documented, of which 24 are entirely confined to the cave environment. Eyeless, wingless, depigmented creatures that have spent thousands of generations adapting to an atmosphere that would render a human unconscious within minutes. Number 4. The St. James Station Ghost Tunnels, Sydney. 20 metres below the lawns of Hyde Park in the Sydney CBD, there is an underground lake that almost nobody knows exists. The St. James Station ghost tunnels were designed in the 1920s by engineer John Bradfield and architect George McRae as part of an ambitious underground railway loop that would have connected the eastern and western suburbs of Sydney. 2 inner platforms were built at St. James Station alongside the 2 outer platforms that went into service in 1926. Branch tunnels were excavated. The infrastructure for an expanded railway network was physically in the ground. Then the Great Depression arrived. Funding collapsed. The inner platforms and their tunnels were sealed off, unused, and left in the dark beneath the city. Over the following century, the disused tunnels accumulated an unusual history. From 1933 to 1934, the city inner tunnel was leased as a mushroom farm, producing approximately 4,500 kilograms of mushrooms per month in the cool, damp conditions. During World War II, the southern tunnels were converted into a public air raid shelter capable of accommodating 20,000 Sydney residents, with concrete blast walls installed every 30 metres and blast curtains across the ventilation openings. A section of the tunnels housed the Royal Australian Air Force's No. 1 Fighter Sector Operations Bunker. Decades later, they served as the filming location for the Matrix Revolutions and the Australian horror film The Tunnel. The northern section of the tunnels, meanwhile, slowly filled with water seeping from surrounding aquifers, forming St. James Lake, a subterranean body of water 10 metres wide, 5 metres deep, and approximately 1 kilometre long, sitting in complete darkness beneath the central business district of Australia's largest city. In 2025, the New South Wales government completed a restoration of the southern tunnels, installing multimedia and soundscape attractions and opening them as a historical tourist destination. The northern tunnels, with their underground lake, remain sealed. Number 3. The Cunalda and Karkalbidi Caves, Nullarbor. Beneath the flat limestone crust of the Nullarbor Plain, 2 cave systems preserve extraordinary things. One holds some of the oldest verified human art in the world, and the other contains flooded passages stretching for more than 6 kilometres that are accessible only to technical cave divers carrying redundant breathing gas supplies and underwater propulsion vehicles. Cunalda Cave opens as a massive collapsed doline, a circular shaft 60 metres in diameter, dropping 25 metres down a talus slope into a series of large passages and 3 lakes 80 metres below the surface. Archaeological research pioneered by Dr. Alexander Gallus beginning in 1956 established that the Murning people used this cave system between 20,000 and 22,000 years ago, making it one of the earliest documented sites of human activity in Australia. What they left behind, in passages completely devoid of natural light deep within the cave, is one of the most extraordinary archaeological records on the continent. Thousands of square metres of cave wall covered in finger flutings, geometric, parallel lines drawn by human fingers into the soft calcareous surface. Some of the oldest verified rock art in the world, made in absolute darkness, 25 metres underground, 22,000 years ago. The cave also preserves evidence of organised silica and flint mining. Large nodules were systematically extracted from the limestone walls, processed into blanks, and traded across thousands of kilometres of indigenous exchange networks, the same networks that moved goods across the continent long before anyone had drawn a border through it. In December 2022, vandals bypassed the security gates and destroyed sections of the ancient finger flutings. The Australian government allocated $400,000 in 2023 to upgrade security and install surveillance cameras in coordination with the Murning custodians. Karkalbidi Cave, elsewhere on the Nullarbor, goes in the other direction, down and underwater. Its flooded limestone passages have been mapped for more than 6 kilometres. The water is so still and clear that visibility extends as far as any diving light can reach. No current to stir sediment, no surface connection to cloud the water. Exploring it requires cave diving at the outer edge of the discipline, underwater scooters, staged gas cylinders placed deep inside the passages before any dive begins, and the kind of planning margin that accepts that there is no surface to ascend to if something goes wrong. Number 2. The Melbourne Underground Labyrinth. Melbourne sits on top of an interconnected network of stormwater tunnels, abandoned infrastructure voids, bluestone cellars, and heritage cavities that the city has been accreting since the 1850s gold rush. The Cave Clan, a group of urban explorers founded in Melbourne in 1986, has spent 4 decades documenting this underground world. What they found does not appear on any official city map. The bluestone cellar of the de Graves Brothers Gold Rush flour mill still exists intact beneath de Graves Street, sealed since the 19th century. Under the Royal Arcade, structural cavities remain from Turkish baths that operated for 50 years before closing. At the corner of Flinders Lane and Elizabeth Street, the Great Shaft descends 12 stories, a 120-year-old vertical utility pit built to manage deep sewer transitions, still accessible in theory, still sitting beneath a street that most Melburnians walk across without knowing what is under their feet. The Gold Transport Tunnel Network, built to move gold bullion between the Treasury offices on Spring Street and the city's major banking vaults without exposing the shipments to street-level theft, was wired for electricity in the 1930s and then sealed. It is still down there. The Elizabeth Street storm drain, built directly over a natural creek bed that remains an Aboriginal sacred site, periodically overflows during severe rainfall, forcing the water table back up through the drains and, on extreme occasions, driving thousands of rats out of the underground infrastructure into the surrounding streets. The underground city is not passive. It pushes back. Number 1. Coober Pedy, South Australia. Coober Pedy is a town in the South Australian outback, 848 kilometres north of Adelaide, where summer temperatures routinely exceed 47 degrees Celsius. The opal fields beneath the town were discovered in 1915, and within years the people who came to mine them had made a practical decision about where to live. Below the surface, where the temperature holds steady at 23 to 25 degrees regardless of what the desert is doing above. Today, roughly half of Coober Pedy's population lives underground. The dugouts, hand-carved or machine-bored into the soft claystone and siltstone hillsides, range from basic single rooms to elaborate multi-chamber residences with arched ceilings, carved walls, and all the fixtures of a modern house. The town's underground infrastructure extends beyond residences to include hotels, retail shops, opal museums, and 3 functioning churches carved directly into the bedrock. A church, underground, in a desert, where the congregation sits below the ground level of the surrounding town. The most singular underground structure in Coober Pedy belongs to Arvid Blumenthal, known as Crocodile Harry, a self-proclaimed Latvian baron and former Northern Territory crocodile hunter who carved his dugout into a hillside along 17 Mile Road in 1975. The interior features curved siltstone sculptures, hand-painted murals, a large central crocodile sculpture, and a collection of brassieres left by visitors over decades. The Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome film crew built a sound sculpture called The Orchestra from metallic trash inside the space. The film used the dugout as a location, as did the science fiction film Pitch Black in the year 2000. Crocodile Harry's dugout is an underground art installation in a subterranean town in the Australian outback, and it has appeared in more Hollywood productions than most purpose-built film sets. Coober Pedy tops this list not because it is the deepest or the most geologically dramatic or the most historically significant of the 10 subterranean worlds on this list. It tops the list because it is the only one where people chose to go underground, not for military necessity, not for scientific research, not because the entrance was 4 meters from a known cave mouth and concealed by fallen logs, but because the Earth offered better conditions for human life than the surface, and they took the offer. Australia looks flat from above. The ancient surface gives almost nothing away. Everything extraordinary about what this continent contains, the cave art 22,000 years old, the lava tubes that sheltered Gondwana rainforest, the underground lake beneath Hyde Park, the 220 kilometers of cave passage in the tropical north, the people living in carved hillsides to escape the heat, all of it is below the line where the satellite can see. If you want more of what Australia is hiding underneath the surface, subscribe. We go deep every week.